everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. Welcome to Studio 22 right here on Blaze TV. Glad you guys could tune back in with us. Got a special guest in here that I'm going to introduce in just a minute. But as always, I want to encourage everybody, come out and see me on the road. WatchChad.com, the newly revamped, I shall say, WatchChad.com. Got a brand new website, a lot of the same content, but it's much more user-friendly. You can get things like the podcast. You can get the Humor Me with Chad Prather show real quick. You can get all of my dates out on the road live. And I want you to go get your tickets, come out and find me. We're having a blast all over this country. Over in the Peanut Gallery on his phone right now, trying to pretend like he's serious, is Party Foul Steve.
I'm looking up stuff. I'm researching things.
Are you researching? You're supposed to do that prior to the show, brother. Prior to the show. And then, of course, Hot News Natalie sitting over there with her clipboard looking official.
I did research. I'm excited.
Oh, we all so excited. NRATV's Colion Noir is in the house right here in Studio 22. You're a hard man to get a hold of and to nail down.
Yeah, my mom says the same thing. It's pretty bad, man.
You know what my mother says? My mother gets on to me, and I'll tell you, everybody else has heard this. She says, I love the podcast. Mm-hmm. She said, but then y'all turn it into party time, and I don't like that. And I'm like, Mom, we're not doing anything bad. Yeah. We're not saying anything bad. She's like, yeah, but y'all are having too much fun.
The funny thing is, as I've gotten older, my relationship with my mother, our conversations, my filter has gotten exceedingly worse.
Yeah.
So I start talking to her about stuff, and she's like, wait, so hold on a second. I don't want to hear that. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes now.
So do you remember back when the Brett Kavanaugh hearings were going on and somebody did that spoof video with Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction? And it was the scene where they're in the apartment, and he's like, where's Brett? Are you Brett? And so he goes off, and he comes back into Brett Kavanaugh doing the deal, and it's Samuel L. Jackson being Samuel L. Jackson. And so it was hilarious. And I sent it to my mother, and she said, I got into 12 seconds of that. I couldn't watch it. And I was like, but it's funny. Have a margarita, Mom. It's funny.
Did he drop some F-bombs on that?
A couple of them, yeah.
It's kind of mandatory in anything he does. Yeah. If he doesn't do it, it wasn't Samuel Jackson. It was a hologram.
Yeah, even when he disappeared at the end of the Avengers. I mean, that's what was coming out of his house. Oh, mother.
I want him to narrate my life.
Who do you want? You want Sam L. Jackson or you want Morgan Freeman?
It's kind of it's a combination there. I wonder if we could combine those two.
Let me tell you how
Freeman's voice with those F-bombs.
Let me tell you how white Party Foul Steve is. We were at opening day for the Texas Rangers, right? We're sitting up in the suite, and they're playing the James Earl Jones clip from Field of Dreams, right? And Party Foul looks over. He's sitting in his chair. He's drinking his wine, white wine, bougie. And he says, I love Morgan Freeman's voice. You're so stupid, man. You're so stupid.
What is that, like black voice envy?
You're the only one that laughed at me, too. I was like, I looked around to see if anybody caught it. You caught it. Nobody else did.
Dummy. But sitting over here in the puppet gallery, got the puppet master Mark sitting there at the controls. Candice, Queen of the Ethiopians, is not in the studio right now. She's over there doing real work. And of course, we got Bougie Sean Foster sitting over there. Colin, my brother, you are putting yourself in danger.
In more ways than one. I started to realize that as of late. I kind of just went into it blindly, and I'm like, kind of looking around like,
does it freak you out, though, when you go, like I saw you from a distance, I saw you at the Dallas at the NRA convention, and you guys were at the NRA booth, and it was you and Kaya and Dana and a few others that were there, and I mean, people are lined up. Does that encourage you, or is it humbling? I mean, just blow you away?
A little bit of both. It does, on one level, it definitely satisfies whatever narcissistic tendencies I have. But then on the other spectrum, it's definitely humbling.
Yeah.
Very humbling. And it's reinvigorating also, because it can get a little, doing what I do can get very daunting. It can get very dark. It can be very stressful. And then going to things like the NRA annual meetings, like the one that's about to come up now, and then seeing the people on the ground who really, like people who really genuinely, really support you.
Yeah.
That is, it's, I can't even begin to express how energizing that is.
Yeah.
And so usually when I come back from those type of events, it's kind of like I'm a whole new man. All right, let's go. Let's hit it again.
Yeah.
And hit the ground running.
Well, you become a voice for so many people who don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got that platform, and you can say things that a lot of people can't say. And that's something I learned through social media years ago, is that people used to say, man, you say things I want to say and I can't say. And I say, well, why can't you say them? And they say, well, I might lose my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, you've been outspoken. How does your hate mail compare to Dana's? Cause she gets it.
But Dana's a G though.
Yeah.
So Dana just
she brings it on.
Man. I'll go out. I kind of ignore it, and then I'll go out and sit at a bar and start drinking and getting all my feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're like, don't talk to me like nah. But it can get pretty bad. Yeah. And there is something to be said about, and the weird dynamic that I'm in is, they tell you don't read the comments. Don't read the comments. Everyone's like, don't read the comments. Don't read the comments. I have to read the comments. Like I'm about as grassroots as it comes. Yeah. So, and I try to stay as connected to my audience as possible. So there is way more good than there is bad.
Yeah.
However, because I have to filter through the good, I have to come across the bad whenever I'm reading through comments and mail and things of that nature. So
weird how we gravitate towards the negative, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I call it the black dot on white paper theory. No, that's not a ratio.
No, I was ready.
Steve has a reputation.
I was ready.
Jeez, Lord have mercy.
Oh. You have a white piece of paper and it's blacked out. For some reason, you can't stop looking at the little tiny black dot that's on this massive void of white.
Yeah,
that was not a ratio.
Yeah,
but it's very interesting from a psychological standpoint how we do really tend to focus on the negative. Like scores of great messages I'll get, and it's that one, and I'll get on the phone like, did you see this?
Yeah,
and I'm like, come on, dude. Like, how about take that energy and put it towards the good comments that people are making?
Over the years, I've given Tommy Laren a hard time about the comments, and she's like, Chad, I don't read the comments. And I said, come on, you don't read the comments. You got to read. Like on Twitter, where I'm a little more gloves off on Twitter, and I'm like you, I have a drink or two, and then I feel like I'm coming at you. Here, I got feeling bold.
I think you and I are kind of same in that, like, when we're on our, our platforms, we're nice.
Yeah.
And then when we start drinking, it's kind of like, all right, you're going to get the unfiltered version that you probably aren't going to be able to handle.
Exactly.
But the fact that we have a platform, and in doing so, we'll end up coming across as the bully.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to, measure that. And sorry for my phone ringing.
No, don't worry about the buzzing. They won't hear that. Studio 22, we're laid back. Noir's butt's vibrating.
I'm sorry.
And when I say we, I don't mean all black people, but we drink.
Kenny.
I thought it was Hennessy.
Let me tell you something. So I was in the Sacramento airport. This is a funny story. I was in the Sacramento airport, and this guy sits down next to me. I'm waiting on a flight, and it's just me. Party Foul wasn't with me on this, thank God. And so I'm sitting there, and I'd order chicken wings and fries. And they bring it out. If you've ever been to the Sacramento airport, like the bar is right in the middle of the airport, and the wings go off. And they bring this basket of fries, right? So the guy sits down next to me, he's a black guy, and he says, I want some wings. And I said, don't order fries, just share my fries. I said, because they gave me so many. He's like, all right, man, I appreciate that. And so they're like,
that was very white of you.
Yeah, it was very white of me. I'm a giver. I want my token fries. So I said, you need some white potatoes with your fried chicken, my man. And so I said, look,
My man.
have some of my Idaho spuds. They're quite Irish in origin. Wow, that fried chicken looks very Kentucky.
Sound like a country Brit.
So I'm sitting there, and this guy leans over the deal, and the bartender comes up and he says, "Man, can I get you a drink?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, man, give me a I'll take a this went on for like 30 seconds. I'll take a Hennessy." I was like, dude, I could have ordered that for you 30 seconds ago. I knew when you sat down you wanted a Hennessy. I knew. Are you kidding?
That just tells you how good Hennessy's marketing. It's marketed that way.
I've never seen Hennessy's marketing.
What?
I don't know what that looks like.
Come on. Have you ever watched a rap video? One.
I'm gonna walk out.
Bougie's gonna walk out in protest.
You're not going anywhere. I love you. Out of everybody in here, I love you.
And I actually
like
I
in the top
can't
three.
stand Hennessy.
I know. It's like drinking syrup to me. I can't stand it.
I can't. I'll do Douce, but Hennessy
Man.
may or may not have pissed off a cocktail waitress at what may or may not have been a strip club in Houston.
Well, she may or may not have had her clothes on.
In the middle.
I just thought she was like, and she did that to me. She was like, we had a little hookah, had this one, and she's like, so what do you want to drink? We have Hennessy? I was like,
Some of that VO, baby.
I don't want Hennessy.
Yeah.
And she kind of got mad at me.
Really?
Yeah, she was like, "Who doesn't like Hennessy?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Me."
I don't like it.
I've never drank it, so
Yeah.
I know that
Well, there's a shocker.
I have had some Mad Dog.
There's a shocker.
So-
Oh, shut up, Steve. Lord have mercy.
I like Booze
How do we
Farm.
even get down this road? I love this show. I love this show, Booge.
Hashtag making a difference.
And Natalie sits over there. Natalie doesn't even drink.
I don't drink.
Oh, my God.
Just-
Bless
do
your
you
heart.
think I need it?
Yeah.
I mean, for real.
You know, that's a good. That's
In the 30 seconds you've known
Self-awareness
me,
is everything.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We
I'll end
have-
up on the table without it. So
We have, and I've told
Like
this story
dancing?
on the podcast. Cole, you'll appreciate this. So, it's me and Sean and Jason Hernandez, and we were in what city were we in?
Which story is this one?
This was the clap.
Wichita
we were in-
Falls.
Wichita Falls.
No, Salina, Kansas.
No, Salina, Kansas.
I'm
Snow
scared.
on the
I'm
ground.
scared of
Salina,
this.
Kansas. Snow's on the ground. Party foul wanted to go back. He went to bed, and he turned in. This was after one of my shows, and we're walking through the snow. We're trying to find a bar. We go in the back door of this bar because everybody said, yeah, that's where you need to go. And we come through. Well, Jason and Sean go into the bar, and I can hear the band playing. And I go in the bathroom, which is in the hallway from the back door, and I can hear the band. I thought they were singing this song called She Took a Crap. She took a crap. And I go in there. Well, there's no, Bougie's gone. Jason's gone. They're all the way sitting at the back waiting for me at the door ready to leave.
In the front.
And they were like, this is not our place. And the song they were singing was She's Got the Clap. She's Got the Clap, which is not much better. The whole thing. I was like, no, this ain't our scene. So I tell that story just to say we have a lot of fun on the road.
Where was this again?
This was Salina, Kansas.
That
of
sounds-
all places.
That sounds about right, actually.
Salina, Kansas. It was
We all
crazy.
four walk in a place, heads turned, that's for sure. Because
Yeah,
it doesn't
we look like a
we go
weird
together.
band. We look like a weird
We are a
band.
weird band.
Bougie with his white privilege, and Sean with his Guatemalan roots, his Bill the Wall roots, and me with a cowboy hat on, and Steve with his hippie long hair. It's funny, but no. Anyway, let's get back to this thing. So, look, if people get and look. If you're not following Noir on everything from YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the good stuff, you got to do it because your videos are top notch. It's class, and it's intelligent, and I love it. And let me tell you something: you can't do what you do with the NRA, as polarizing as this day and age is. You can't do what you do without having like Mendoza line 200 level IQ, genius. It really is, because I'm intimidated by it. I mean, I'm intimidated. So I appreciate what you guys do. I really do. But I want to. We can go to that, but because people can find the videos. I want to talk about some other things you've been doing, which are near and dear to me. Homelessness.
Yeah.
Homelessness, because I know that's been a big thing in recent days for you. You've been out. You've been on the streets. You've been asking questions. How did you get into that topic? Why does it matter? And what have you found out from your travels?
So we got into that topic when we were concepting the next season of my show Noir, which is on NRATV, and part of that discussion was this notion that, you know, we talk about the gun issue from the standpoint of there are deeper, bigger issues that if we address those, that would pretty much take care of a lot of the issues that we have in this country.
Yeah.
We should take the energy that we spend on talking about gun control and focus that energy on bigger issues, right? Like improving people's value of life, so to speak. And so what we thought was, well, if you look at all of these stereotypical liberal cities that we have in this country, you know, they tend to be gun control walking examples of what hardcore gun control is like, right? And we also noticed that there was a consistency in the value of life that a lot of people were living in these cities as well that wasn't so great, and that there were other issues going on in these cities that aren't being addressed, that aren't being taken care of. And it's like, why are we even talking about gun control, right? Especially from a statistical standpoint. Like, it's like on a national level, you know, 65, 67% of the gun deaths in this country are suicides, right? And then the remaining that are legitimate, full-blown homicides are taking place in very specific areas of big cities, i.e. our inner cities in this country. And so it's kind of like, well, if we address suicide issue is a whole nother matter. That's a thing that really has nothing to do with gun control. because if it did, other countries like the UK would have a much lower suicide rate than us, but they don't, right? And they're barely allowed to own guns.
Yeah.
So that definitely
that's an interesting point. Hang on over that, because that's an interesting point. That's something I've never have really thought about, because you're right. The suicide rates, you got the same deal.
Yeah. And in some places it's almost double, like in Japan.
Yeah.
Where they're definitely not allowed to own guns.
Yeah.
And yet they have double the suicide rate as us, and then our leading cause of gun deaths in this country is by way of suicides.
Yeah.
So and interesting, and then it's like you can only really kind of hash that out in conversations like this, because it's a bit complex if you really think about it. But we were sitting there thinking, well, why don't we put foot to pavement then? Why don't we say, okay, well, we're always saying there are bigger issues. Why don't we go then expose those bigger issues and talk about those bigger issues, and then maybe people will start to realize how big these issues are, and then we'll start focusing our energy and attention there. It's kind of like the idea of firearm responsibility, for instance, right? Because I want to say it's about 5 to 10%, so to speak, of people die as a result of accidental gun deaths. And I've always said, if we spent more energy teaching people how to own firearms responsibly, we cut that number in half,
right?
Like that. And so, as a result, we said, all right, well, let's start picking the cities that are the most anti-gun, and then take a look and see what other issues they have that are much bigger than their so-called gun issue. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And, we started out in places like, for instance, Chicago, right? Chicago is the poster child for anything dealing with gun deaths and gun violence, so to speak. But then also the poster child for gun control laws. And so it begs questions like, well, how does that dichotomy exist when, in one breath, the gun control laws are supposed to stop the violence, but then you still have this insurmountable level of violence that's going on in a very small area of the city. And so I've always said it. I was like, well, that's because it's a socioeconomic issue. It's not a gun issue, right? I was like, Middle America has more guns than food, but yet you don't see the same level of violence. So there's got to be something deeper. There's got to be something bigger there that's causing the violence. If you deal with that, the guns becomes a non-starter at that point. And so that's how we kind of started getting into that. And so what happened is, as we started going into these cities and started to kind of do some research about these cities, we started realizing, holy crap, there's huge, like with Chicago, there's a socioeconomic political corruption problem. And where was the other place in New York that we went to? Albany, New York. Same thing, same concept, socioeconomic, political corruption. And then places like Seattle, San Francisco, drugs, opioid epidemic, homelessness, cost of living, corruption, all of these things that were way bigger than this notion of gun violence, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, it's really been eye-opening, because we're still currently in the process of doing that now. I just got back from L.A. And
that was an adventure, huh?
Man, I tell you, like we were in the hoods. The funny thing about LA is you don't realize how many hoods there are in LA.
There's a lot of hoods,
like a lot. And it was interesting talking to the people that I was talking to. It's very eye opening, right? Just the dynamic there, and just how ingrained in the culture a lot of the stuff is. And then even with some of the people who are a lot older, they'll tell you it's like what it is now is something totally different than what it was in the beginning. Yeah, sure, there was the violence there in the beginning, but this is something different than what we're seeing now. And so LA has definitely implanted me in many ways. Like it left an imprint in me.
Yeah.
And I've been to LA quite a bit, but this is the first time where I ventured off, the green path.
I go to LA a lot. I don't venture off because
you're a smart man. That's why.
I don't venture off.
I mean, there was one moment. I mean, there was a full blown shootout on the street over from where we were filming. And it really put things into perspective. There was a couple times we were getting B-roll in certain projects, and my guys, they're phenomenal at what they do. The crew is amazing, and they're fearless, almost to the point of stupidity. And so. And there have been many times, your bougie will tell you. We've been in the car. We're like, where we were in the last time we were in LA. I was like, hey, look, man.
We're not getting out the car.
Yeah, I was like, no.
I worked with.
I know. I was going to make a point of that because Bougie Sean, he worked with Noir for a while.
And we ventured into neighborhoods, and I was driving.
Yeah,
and
that's the one thing I will say that I miss is. I like him. I like having him as my driver.
You ain't getting him back.
I
I'm actually more worried about the other people on the road.
You can have party foul. Yeah, let party foul drive for you.
If a Chinese guy can make it in LA, I can do it.
Now, there's one
What is wrong with you?
at the end of
I'm packing though, right?
at the maybe it's where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where we are. I can either confirm or deny.
Okay.
You better have one of those neck braces. You better have one of those neck pillows that they wear on the airplane, because let me tell you, when Steve's driving, he's hard on that brake.
Those man.
What's the requirement?
Oh,
You have to drink Hennessy at the end of the
and sure, a strange white dude's French fries.
All right, that's what we're doing tonight.
But yeah,
We're gonna have a Hennessy, both of us.
Oh, that's nasty.
But there are situations that we did go into, and Collins. I mean, it's you walk into it, and you're like, this is happening, and it's not just about gun violence. Like Seattle, we had nightmares in Seattle. Like we walked down alleyways, and literally just needles. Every step you took was a hypodermic needle, and people are like, "Oh, that's fine. We just give out free needles."
Like literally,
yeah.
like he's filming me. I'm having a conversation, a walk and talk, and I'm literally. If you watch the video, you can see my eyes darting to the ground every 2 seconds because I just didn't want to step on something I didn't want to step on.
Well, we're at a point now where San Francisco has its fecal maps, where people
I saw a lot of that.
where not to go because of the hypodermics, because of the fecal matter in the street where homeless people are, and you go to places like Denver. Of course, the drug legalization and stuff like that kind of caused a mass migration there, and people came in there. I mean, they have these little boxes on the street where people, like little tiny mobile homes, plastic tents. People climb in and sleep in at night, and they're lined the streets.
They have their cities within cities.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing I want to communicate is that this isn't me lambasting homeless people.
Yeah.
This isn't a critique of the homeless people in and of themselves.
Right.
It's more so a critique of the way that the city is handling the issue.
Yeah.
Because it's an issue that shouldn't exist the way that it does. Right. And I even said it in one of the talking points of videos. I was like, I live in an area in Dallas that's pretty much down the street from a homeless shelter. Mm-hmm. And walking down that is nowhere near as bad in just being regular downtown San Francisco. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Like that's something's wrong with that. And
I can remember going right after the fall of communism. I was in Moscow in early 90s, and I can remember being in some sketchy places that I didn't want to be in. And then I go into some of America's inner cities, and I'm there, and I've never been a guy who's walked in fear. I just kind of go out. I mean, anybody that goes deep into Philly wearing a cowboy hat, I mean, you just got to own it. And so I'm like, so I've been in all these places. Again, like you said, that borders on the line of stupid. That's me. I'll run where angels fear to tread. But I mean, I've had more scary experiences in America's inner cities than I have in. I mean, when I was in my early 20s, I used to go pick up this little blind lady who lived in the project there where I grew up, and I'd take her to church on Sunday mornings, and I'd have to get her little wig adjusted because she was bald, and I'd fix her up, Miss Allen, and I'd walk her out. She goes, "Is that my Chad?" She'd feel all over my face, and here I am, it's cold, and I'm wearing an overcoat and stuff, looking like a G man walking in the project, going to pick this lady up. And I mean, I just never thought about stuff like that. But now you go into places and it's like, this is a not only an urban jungle per se, but in some ways it's a third world country within a first world.
No, it's insane.
And I remember you did a video recently where you were talking with a guy on the street and you said, "What's the solution?" The guy says, "Anarchy."
Let me tell you the hardest part of my job in this series sometimes. So my goal with this series is to present an objective image of the issue, so to speak, right? Because it's biased from the standpoint that we are going to see what the problems are.
Right.
However, we want to have a multifaceted look at it from different perspectives. And then you run into some people sometimes and they say things, and I have to measure my responses and keep my facial expressions to a certain demeanor. Yeah. Because some people say very kind of off the wall shit that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Right.
It sounds good it doesn't even sound good in theory in a lot of ways. Like anarchy, this is anarchy. What are you talking about? Like, the government doesn't live here. Yeah. And it doesn't. They enable it. They allow it to exist.
Yeah, you're not paying property taxes.
Nah. And so it's kind of like the notion that and I said in the video, it's like, it's a romantic idea that we just burn it all down and start from the beginning, right? This isn't a video game. I used to do that a lot, right? Building the civilization stuff, and I start losing. I'll just burn everything down and start over again. That's not how it works in real life.
Right.
And so hearing that whole anarchy thing, and I was like, yeah, it sounds cool, anarchy. I was like, and the thing is, it's like, and the guy was really cool, really cool dude. He was very adamant about what he did, and
he was outspoken.
He had passion, yeah. He wouldn't last 3 days in anarchy.
Yeah,
he just wouldn't, because I don't think people understand the reality.
I don't know what it is.
They have no idea what it sounds good.
It does.
It's a 3-syllable word. It sounds good, and it sounds like something that's a free for all, and everybody go get their own and take care of themselves.
Except for what that really means and what it takes to actually have to do that in a world that is anarchy.
Yeah, watch The Purge. Watch The Purge. See who gets whacked first.
Because I remember when I first
Not
started.
the people behind the gates.
Exactly.
Or visit a real third world country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, I remember when I first started doing the YouTube stuff in the gun world, you know, like that was when like the zombie thing was really big.
Mm-hmm.
And there were these like delusions of grandeur with respect to having a zombie apocalypse. Like, would it be fun to have a zombie apocalypse? Hell no.
No.
Apocalypse is not fun. Maybe fun like 30 seconds.
Just
and then you got to do the same shit over and over and over again dealing with zombies. Nah, I'm cool.
Yeah, you just want to shoot a 3D target.
Exactly. And I was like, there's nothing fun about that. Like, not at all.
If the zombie apocalypse goes down. Now, Natalie, her husband and brother-in-law own DFW Gun Sports, and they're opening the Texas Gun Experience, which is an indoor range up in Grapevine. They're going to have like 200 machine guns. Mm-hmm. I'm coming right there, okay, if it happens, if it goes down.
I'm taking over Cabela's.
Don't take over Dick's. They ain't got no guns no more.
I got a whole team ready to launch on the Cabela's.
The weird thing is, I didn't know a lot of my neighbors knew who I was.
Yeah.
Because I tend to try to be.
That's a weird when you find that out, though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I was surprised by the reaction, though.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, where I live, it's blue.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when Beto was running here, I mean, we had Beto signs everywhere.
Yeah.
And one guy, he was like, they'll come to me, ask me advice, ask for my opinion on certain things, and like, we're glad to have you in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I was like, I heard the black guy with all the guns in the neighborhood.
So you know, the late Chris Kyle's dad, Wayne Kyle, I serve on their board with American Valor Foundation, and he came to my show that we did here in Grand Prairie, and he sent me a text message, and he said, hey, are they wanding people coming in the door? We had like 3,000 people coming in the door, and I said, well, they got full-on metal detectors. I said, Wayne, he goes, well, I'm going back to my truck. I said, no, Wayne. I said, come drive around back. I'll let you in the back door. And I was actually happy to know that somebody in that room on my side was packing, because we get all kind of crazy stuff. Yeah. But that is a weird feeling, because, you know, we got, you know, our neighbors across the street, they got weeds growing everywhere, hadn't taken care of their lawn and stuff. But by God, when Beto was running, they had 11 signs out there in the front yard. And I'm like, y'all hugging weeds and trees and everything else.
Don't get me started on that.
Don't even get me started on that thing. Here's what I want to know from you, though. Because people have their go-to responses whenever you bring something up. Like, for instance, you mentioned Chicago. Mm-hmm. And what are they going to say? They're going to say, well, all those guns are coming over from Indiana because they got a lax gun law over there. And so they're trafficking these guns in. What we got to do is we got to fix the gun problem in Indiana. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that argument where people have said those things?
I usually respond with, yeah, because they don't have the same violence problem in Indiana.
That's exactly right.
Like, it's people don't like to take the next logical thought process to its ultimate conclusion.
That's exactly right.
And then, you know what it is, though, is this nature of just lack of accountability that is being pretty much forced down the throats of everybody in this country. Nobody wants to take accountability or personal responsibility for anything. And so what happens is we always blame something else. So it's kind of like, you know, well, we have all this violence in Chicago with these guns, and it's because the guns are getting in from Indiana. And I was like, well, no, if that were the case, Indiana would have the same level of violence, but they don't.
Right.
So the issue is your city.
Yeah.
What issues are going on in your city that are creating the circumstances that you have this type of violence? Because it's very concentrated. Mm-hmm. I love Chicago.
I do too.
In the summertime.
That window cut you in half. It is the land of delayed flights. Trust me, it's brutal.
Yeah, in the summertime, I love it.
I know I'm in O'Hare because as soon as you flush the toilet, the little plastic on the seat goes, it rewraps it for you. I hate that place, but I do love Chicago.
Yeah, I love it.
I love Chicago.
But and it's a beautiful city.
Yeah,
except in the hood.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about violence when I was walking around Chicago. Sean, we were there. We had a good old time in Chicago when we weren't filming.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
You remember that movie, old Kurt Russell movie, Escape from New York? You remember when they dropped, so Snake Plissken.
I know the movie.
You know the movie, little movie history for you. He was in prison, and they pull him out because the president's plane had gone down in New York, and this was the apocalyptic future. They'd built a wall, and all the crazies and the barbarians were in there, and he'd landed in there, and they were holding him captive. So they send Kurt Russell's character, Snake Plissken, in to rescue him and pull him back out, you know. And he's got this guy in there who's running. He's the godfather, the gang lord. He's the king of New York, #1. You remember that? You remember that? So that's the way I look at almost Chicago. Like there's this line you don't cross.
And it's very definitive.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now
I've been through it. I know. I don't like it.
I remember we were in a car, and where were we at Hyde Park?
Yeah.
We're talking the next, like, it was beautiful, 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 and it was just like, boom. I was like, would a kid draw a line with the crayon and said, this is the line of demarcation? Like, it's
Imagine no line. Do not cross.
Yeah. I was like, holy crap.
It changed.
Yeah,
It changed on us.
instantly, man.
It's scary.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is deliberate.
Yeah.
This
I mean, we
is
joke and we
deliberate.
laugh about it, but it is that real thing. As a guy who spent a lot of time, 20 years of my life in third world countries, and I come in and I look at these inner cities and I'm like, wow, you're right. You don't have the same violence going on in Indiana. It is a culture thing. It is it's you gotta fight to survive. We could list off every little cliche to make that what it is, but it is what it is. Yeah. And so I look at that. What is it when people come at you? Have you heard an argument from that side who says, the gun control side, who says, this is what we want to see happen? Have you heard a legitimate or valid argument from that side? Something that says, okay, that's a place we could make a concession.
No. I have heard, so one of my legal mentors, he's a gun guy. He's actually the first person I went hunting with. He calls it the nuclear suitcase argument because he was like, if you're going to stand on principle, then you're going to have to accept the fact that you're arguing for people to have nuclear suitcase. And then that's where we start going at it.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily agree with that, but that argument, if I hold true to the purity of the logic of the ideology and the principle, I can see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And so there's this notion of, okay, well then what am I saying to myself? Am I saying that, okay, maybe there are some concessions, right? Maybe there are some limitations, so to speak. But then I think also there's this false notion that people think that we gun people expect there to just be this unbridled access to all types of firearms, and we don't, it's just a free-for-all. It's just like Oprah raining guns down on everyone.
Hell yeah.
And
Here's a gun. Here's a gun.
You get a gun.
but nobody ever stops to think. No one's advocating handing nuclear suitcases to rooms full of people.
That's not, exactly.
And it's kind of like you guys. What they don't acknowledge is, and a lot of it's due to ignorance because they don't follow the discussion and the debate. So the first time they ever hear about any gun law is when they're talking about assault weapon bans.
Yeah.
So they think it's reasonable because that's the first time. I'm like, dude, like there are 300 federal gun laws in this country, over 22,000 on the state level. We've been talking about gun laws. Yeah. Right.
How do people and finish that thought if there's more to finish? But and I hate to interrupt you because I don't want to forget this.
You're good.
What's the problem with the whole conversation about universal background checks?
Okay. So my issue with universal background checks is one, just off the bat, they're not going to do anything.
Right.
Let's just start. We have to start with that premise. Like they will literally not do anything because a criminal who wants to get a gun is already getting a gun illegally. It just is what it is. Now, in order to have any level of enforcement, you have to have a registry attached to it. You just have to, because it's kind of like if you had a gun on you and I need to find out whether or not you got a background check for that gun, there has to be a system that says this, you got a background check for this gun on this day. That essentially is a registry, right?
Right.
And some people can make the argument, well, that's what the whole FFL system we have now, and next background check system is now. Except, it isn't. This is each individual dealer that has this information versus a national global registry of all the firearms in this country. Now, the question then becomes, so what's the problem with having a national gun registry? It seems innocuous, seems very, innocent. Well, the problem is that throughout history, time and time again, that registry coupled with this universal background check has proven not to do anything. And so what the government or the people in power will say is, since that didn't work, we now need to confiscate guns or have voluntary or involuntary buybacks.
And we know you have 32 guns in your house, and we want every one of them.
Exactly.
Well, the thing about me was Christmas of 2017, I took all my guns out on a 14-foot John boat, and I was cleaning them out there, and the boat tipped over. It was cold, man. It was cold. Man.
I'm
lost every gun.
working on a shirt.
I held on to one little 38 special, 5 bullets in it. That's all I got back.
But then people think the idea of confiscation, door-to-door confiscations, would never happen here in this country, and it has already.
It has happened. So you take the guy in Maryland who was killed by law enforcement because his family reported that he was dangerous, carrying his own gun around, and they wrestle the guy, and he winds up getting shot by law officers. I mean, that's the deal. The guy probably would have never killed himself, but thanks to law enforcement, he's dead.
And even on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
After Katrina.
After Katrina, that's right.
They were going door to door. Literally, it was a full-blown confiscation.
Yeah.
No one ever wants to talk about that. But then we're crazy tinfoil hat wearing lunatics because we talk about we don't want confiscation.
Yeah.
And, no, it's happened.
People have to think more critically. They really do. And that's the thing. It's one of the things I've always appreciated about you is you're a critical thinker. You think through it. Our friend Maj Toure, he's another critical thinker. He's a guy who says, look, you want to fix the inner cities, give them guns. That way people can protect themselves. You know, you go through Chicago, you drive through there, and people are like, look, they know that's a gun-free zone.
But the thing about it is people look at the inner cities and think everyone there is engaged in some type of violent criminal lifestyle. When it's the actual opposite.
You know that's not true.
No, it's not. The vast majority are just people who are on a lower economic level who have to live in these areas, and they're good people. They're just hardworking, good people. They just don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so what you have is these free radicals, as I like to call them, these individuals. Even a lot of kids who are engaged. Let's say the kids that are selling drugs, or standing on the corner selling drugs. All those kids aren't killers.
Right.
Those kids don't want to kill anybody. They're carrying a gun because they're trying to protect themselves. Right, on a very fundamental level. But there are those who are the killers, or who are the shooters. I just did a podcast the other day with two officers on the podcast, and I asked them, I was like, generally speaking, in the neighborhoods where you see the most violence, is it as pervasive throughout the community, or are there a small group committing the vast majority of the violence? And they were like the latter. Like, they usually know who the shooters are. They usually know the people who are most violent and more prone to be violent. So this notion that the inner city is just filled with a bunch of killers is wrong. It's not right. And so what you end up having is people trying to push policies that end up hurting the good people in those areas who need them the most.
Who need them the most.
I live downtown Dallas. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's some crazies. You know, it's a little weird down there sometimes. Yeah. But, you know, like, I'm pretty sure.
There's all kinds of weird, though. Purple hair, pierced up, got so many holes in your head it whistles when the wind blows. Yeah, they got some crazy folks.
They're probably not going to shoot anybody.
They ain't going to shoot nobody, just like Florida and James. They ain't going to shoot nobody. It's good times. They just trying to make a living, and James died. Damn. But they didn't shoot nobody. Dynamite wasn't going to shoot nobody.
Oh, man.
JJ.
But no, yeah, like, it's not. But a single parent mother in the inner city is probably going to need a gun more than I do.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just going to be real about it.
Well, and I appreciate that perspective because that's the real deal. People have the right to defend themselves. Look, I go one further. We did a recent episode of Humor Me talking about marijuana and CBD and THC use. People have a right to be healthy. Look, that's my perspective on things. You know, I'm a one of those guys who says, look, it ain't my thing of choice, but I can't really tell you to go do it. But you know what? I have friends of mine who want to argue the Second Amendment, where the comma's placed, and who puts it here and there, and all this stuff, and I take them back. I'm like, okay, well-regulated militia and all that stuff. How do you respond to that stuff? I know how I do, but you're way more eloquent than I am.
So I can take it. You can take it two ways. You can take it intellectually, and you can just take it just common sense, right? I really don't care what the Second Amendment says. If I'm at home, somebody kicks into my door, no one's going to be there. I need a means by which to protect myself. I don't give two shits if the Second Amendment even existed.
Right.
I need a means to protect myself because the structure in place right now cannot do it effectively enough for me to rely on.
Yeah.
And God forbid if I have, not God forbid. Wow. That's how you know.
Lord willing.
That's how you know I'm single with no kids. I was like, God forbid I have a kid.
Baby, I didn't mean shit. I didn't say none of that on the podcast. They dubbed that in.
Ain't no baby. But you know, and you add a kid to that mix or family. Oh my God, I'm not entrusting the system in place now to protect my family.
Christchurch massacre that happens over there, 30-minute response time on the behalf of law enforcement.
Exactly.
And it's the same here.
And an armed citizen.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if you want to go to an intellectual route, okay, cool. Let's start arguing about commas and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now, we understand that the entirety purpose of the Second Amendment was to protect this country from my mind just blanked out on me.
The British.
Right? Yeah. Foreign or domestic, right? Well, it could be the British or it could be our own government,
Yeah,
right? Tyranny is the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Me too.
Tyrannical government, foreign or domestic, right?
Yeah.
All right. So if we understand that here from a 30,000-foot view, right? Why would it make any sense for us to then say, all right, well, we need something. We have this amendment in place that's designed to protect us from foreign or domestic governments. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the means by which we can fight off a foreign or domestic government and give those to the very domestic government we might have to be fighting if they decide to become tyrannical. Logically, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
At all. And then we can start talking about definitions where it was understood that well-functioning, that was the whole notion behind the militia aspect of it, right? And the militia was consistent of the people. That we just fought a revolutionary war utilizing the people.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
How you could see it any other way.
I have people all the time that say, yeah, but you can't fight the Americans. I mean, if the government wanted to wipe you out, they'd wipe you out. Well, tell that to those folks in Afghanistan, because the Russians couldn't do it, and America hadn't been able to do it. You got these citizen soldiers, mercenaries, all the way down to terrorists that are, they're holed up in these caves, and you can't get them out of there.
But here's the problem is you got to hear the inherent, that statement, that response actually disgusts me.
Yeah.
Because basically what you're saying is, well, we can't beat them, so let's just lay down and get rolled over.
Mm-hmm. Either way, you're conquered people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, and I've told people sometimes too, it's like, it's not really about beating them. It's about making the cost of even trying to become tyrannical so high, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. If you have to nuke your entire population, what's the point of becoming a tyrannical government?
Yeah. You're Mad Max.
Exactly.
You're over a wasteland.
You're the leader of nothing now.
Tina Turner and Thunderdome. You got the Tina Turner Thunderdome thing. This is,
I don't mind that.
Pig fat flatulence. But no, we hold these truths to be self-evident that man is created with certain inalienable rights. Life. What does that mean? That means I get to protect the right to my life.
And that's another thing people fail to realize is, like, the Constitution doesn't give me anything.
Yeah.
It just lets you know what I already had the moment I stepped foot on the surface.
Right, because I can't hold up a copy of the Constitution if somebody kicks in my door in a home invasion and say, "Look, I got the right to life."
I mean, they do when they. A lot of people think you can though.
Yeah.
That's the sad.
No, trust me, I got. Never mind. All my guns fell in the lake. I'm trying to remember what I had. I got a little 357, shoots 5 little bullets.
But one thing I've noticed too, just from
my wife loves you, by the way. I'm so happy she ain't here today. She's like, I love Colion Noir, and I'm like, shut up, woman, get back in that kitchen. Get back in the kitchen. Shut up. She's like, oh my God, you're having him in there, and I'm not there today. And I'm like, shut up, woman.
Open up a
I used the spray tan. She said, that just made you sticky.
I told you it doesn't work like that.
It don't work. It don't work.
Y'all leave Jade alone. She's not here to defend herself.
Good. She can shoot, though. By God, you talk
she
about
can make a
woman that can
mean
defend
can
herself.
of chili.
My Lord.
Can I ask your opinion on something? We have 3 kids in school, in our school system. I know how our district is handling if they went in a lockdown situation because of a shooter. It's funny because I told you I'm from Conroe, and they're talking about guns in schools, and I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure when I was in high school, all of the boys I knew, they brought their guns. They just left them in the car because they went hunting afterward. I know. Yeah. You knew not to bring it in. And then I thought, did my coaches not have guns on their hips on those coaches' shorts? I thought they, like, in my mind, because I grew up in Texas.
In the coaches' shorts, those guns were in their pants.
Yeah, right. Oh, Lord.
They ain't nothing better than them little polyester Russell shorts.
I thought, do they not already bring? So, my mindset, and I have friends that live in Canada who can't even wrap their head around it. But I will tell you, if my child was any of our children was in a situation where the only thing between that classroom and that shooter was a plywood door, I would pray that that teacher had a chance to fight, because at that point, and I listen, I have friends that do not agree with me. That one teacher says, I don't want that responsibility. I'm like, well, I don't want to hit another student. I'm like, you're at war.
That's an interesting thing about that, the whole notion. Look, I'm not a teacher.
I'm not either.
Yeah, so I'm going to begin to act like I know the entirety of the dynamic.
Absolutely, and the pressures that they have. Yeah.
But if you would ask that same teacher, are you willing to die for your kids? Mm-hmm. I bet you she'd take on that responsibility.
Yes.
So why would you not take on the responsibility of fighting for them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that just seemed really odd to me. It's weird because like people don't. It's like, yes, it's scary. It's terrifying. The idea of having to pick up a gun and fight someone who's shooting at you.
It's war. It is a war.
It's a war that you cannot avoid in some instances. And so when it does arrive, you have two choices. You fight, and you still may die. But me personally, I'd rather fight than die than just to die.
Yeah.
That's just why.
Well, and she was scared about hitting a student in that moment, but I haven't seen any. It's like fish on the shark. You don't really see a lot of kids hovering around the shooter in that moment. They're going the other way. So you know,
and the thing
with
about
the proper training.
But here's the thing, though. What's the ultimate consequence? And I hate. Yeah. I don't want to come across as crass, but the kids are getting shot anyway.
Yeah.
Like by you not having something there to stop them. All the kids get shot.
We never had a single school shooting when I was growing up in our school, and every truck in the parking lot had a gun rack in it with guns in it.
We all did.
There wasn't road rage incidents. If there's gun racks, and I'm just saying.
Steve tries to cause them these days, though. Trust me when I tell you.
No, but here's the interesting thing about that.
I'm just saying, because you know it keeps you in check.
No, it really does. I tell people this all the time. I've been in cars with friends before, and they're not gun people.
Yeah. And
so because concealed carry, most people concealed carry versus open, they don't realize how many people have guns. But because I'm so deep in it, I know how many people have guns.
Right.
So if I'm in a passenger seat and you engage in road rage, I'm like, chill.
Stop.
Yeah.
Chill. You're like you have no idea what that person has.
Yeah.
Or is dealing with, and then has the means in which to do something that you don't want to happen.
Yeah.
Like it just stop. Because that's the society we live in. But in a weird way, it does. It checks people. It lets people know you can't just treat anybody like anything because
especially in Texas.
Especially. Yeah, I told Chad a story. I had a dear friend, Mark, who they were at a convenience store, walked in just checking out. Kid pulled a knife out with him there. Mark was concealed, put the gun to the kid's head and said, I'd rethink this. And then the kid ran. It was gone, and the clerk said, do I need to call the police? And Mark said, I think we're good. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that happens a lot. Yeah, and really people don't realize.
Exactly. Hey, if we get a chance, tell Candace to throw this clip up there, but I want to bring it up. Did you see, I'm sure you saw the shot in Brazil with the off-duty police officer, the woman, and the guy pulls over on the side of the road and gets out, and he's coming at her?
Yes, I actually posted it, yeah.
Yeah, and she pulls out and shoots him, and he's dead on the scene. Yeah. I mean, there needs to be more of that.
I agree.
There needs to be more videos of that.
Yeah, really. And I try to make it a point to post as many of them as I can whenever I see them.
Yeah.
Just so that reality sets in and lets people know. Because we tend to live in our own mental microcosms. And we don't think, and it's not to the fault of anyone else. I think if I hadn't gotten into what I got into as far as guns were concerned, I wouldn't know a lot of this stuff either. But we do tend to live in our own little microcosm and not realize that a lot of this stuff happens on a daily basis. I signed up for an app. The ring.com thing, right? I have a Ring bell on my door.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for the app where we get alerts. I get alerts every 3 seconds
People
about a robbing, somebody got shot, someone got stabbed. I'm like, and it's like in like a 2-mile radius of my house. I'm like, Jesus.
I got the same thing, dude. And look, I live in a white neighborhood. I mean, we super white. Man, I got attorneys.
You gotta be careful because if it's a white dude, they're gonna kill a bunch.
We're pretty diverse in our area, but let me tell you, I'm honest with you. I get that same stuff, and then if you really want to add to it, just start seeing how many sex offenders live in your neighborhood. Start looking that crap up, and you're like, oh man, I am moving to Venezuela.
Tarrant County sends you a little postcard with their picture on it. I put them on the back of our front door. Because we got some in our neighborhood.
You are messed up, dude.
No, because I want to look. I want the girls. I want my wife. I want girls to
be
know
familiar
that somebody knocks on that door, and they know what's right behind that door, laying on the shelf too.
Yeah,
and they can all use it.
Our house is a fun house. We got it's interesting. A lot of those guns that don't exist anymore are hidden all over the major parts of the
They are.
Screwed. All my guns are on Instagram.
I know. I've learned to post just enough. Like, I can live without this MPX-9. I don't need it. It jams anyway. If you don't keep that thing well oiled, it's going to jam up. So I don't care if they take that one. Have that 30 clip banana, 30 round banana. I don't care.
Thanks to Chad Prather, all the fish be packing underwater.
All the people in Atlantis have guns.
I know. We just equal things out for Aquaman. He ain't got to do that little wah thing anymore. He's shooting a 9, holding it sideways.
This was Chad Prather's.
This Chad Prather. I don't know why they got no serial number. But no, man, it's true. You know, I mean, it's true. I grew up, you know, and that's the thing. My AR-15s hadn't hurt anybody. But I almost tend to err on the side of saying, well, give them an RPG.
To be honest with you, I think we should have full autos.
I think we should too.
I don't.
And look, I don't care who gets pissed off. Send all the hate mail to Steve at watchchad.com. Listen, I think we should have full autos as well. First of all, the misconception about a full auto machine gun is you think that it's like Scarface. It's the movies where the magazine never runs out. Just
Say hello to my little
you
friend.
get about 4 seconds of sensation of that, and then it's time to reload. And now you got a callus on your thumb.
It's literally
got
like-
the
You need a
machine
bigger
gun.
magazine, buddy.
It's literally like bad sex.
Yeah, it is. It's like virginity at 15.
Yeah, something like that.
Like, oh well, I just spent that
was
money.
over.
I spent that money. That was your virginity.
It's a fact, Boosh. It's a fact, man.
No,
Only
but
difference
it's-
between that and losing my virginity is I wasn't laying on a Clemson jacket when I did it. Out behind a U-Haul trailer in the woods.
I'm celibate. So
I was going to say,
My
he's
man.
single, so he hadn't had that experience yet.
My man. God bless you.
but no, it's you know, and I think a lot of the issues that we have, it's our media has spent so much time demonizing firearms instead of educating the population that lives in a country that has over 300 million guns.
Yeah.
That I don't understand how we can, like, our population has so many guns, and I guarantee you we have more people ignorant about guns in America than we do in places where people are not allowed to own
Right.
them. Because we spend more time trying to demonize them instead of teaching people the responsible use of firearms and understanding them. And so that's the biggest problem I see in America as it stands with respect to the gun issue.
2 questions. I'll let you get out of here. Maybe 3.
Mhm.
First, okay, so the tragedy happens in Christchurch in New Zealand. Within days, the prime minister comes out and says, we're getting rid of all assault style. And so we can,
we get it.
So they're going to do that thing. Most people say that's a good thing. Like a lot of people on the left, Hollywood, all these folks, again, who make their money off of guns in their movies, they say that's a good thing. See, that shows progress and they're getting something done. I see that as a bad thing. The
see it
fact
as a
that you
terrible
can
thing.
that quick turn around and create legislation and just boom. I mean, how did you react when you saw that thing happen?
What, you mean the actual shooting? Or
No.
just
The just the
aftermath?
legislation. I mean, it's all tragedy. We don't sweep anything under the rug. All of
I mean,
these
I actually watched the video of
Yeah.
the shooting, and
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
That affected me. And then the response to it affected me too, because it was it's like, if that doesn't demonstrate to you how important the checks and balance systems that we have in this country are in terms of preserving our rights, like the Constitution, they're only able to do that because New Zealand doesn't have a Constitution.
Yeah.
They don't have a Second Amendment right. So at any given moment, one of their leaders can decide, ban them. And you have no choice. You have none. But yet we're touting that as the example for what we should be doing here in America.
Yeah.
Like, really? This is what we're doing. I've never seen such a country, and I'm about to get real arrogant here.
Come on.
I've never seen where a country that is awesome as we are be so willing to want to be like everyone else who I don't think is as awesome as we are. It's moronic. It's like, yeah, let's do exactly what they're doing over there, the place where I don't want to live, but they're doing that over there. So let's do what they're doing and mimic exactly how they live in the country that I may have even fought for, or my parents have fought to get to, or their parents have fought to get to. And I'm like, why are we trying to be like countries we were trying not to be like?
Yeah.
At the very genesis of the country.
Yeah.
It amazes me.
Yeah.
And then not only that, why are we comparing ourselves to a country that's no bigger than our biggest state?
Yeah.
Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. It's like me saying, you know what, this is how I do things in my house. We're gonna do that here in America.
Right. Yeah. We're gonna run the state like we run my neighborhood.
Yeah, like I have, like, my house right now looks like a bomb exploded in it. Like, you don't want me to run the country like that.
Party at Noirs. Party at Noirs. You're just not getting over the weekend.
Like, my house is not child safe at all. But I mean, seeing them do that, it actually kind of scared me a little bit because, and it wasn't so much them doing that scared me, it's the response from our leaders in this country to that. It's almost like the Constitution didn't exist.
Yeah.
And they were championing it as if to say, this is exactly what we need to do over here. Just ban them. Forget the Constitution. Just ban them.
Constitution's old. Who needs that?
Yeah, like who? Yeah, like
We don't need that.
Time to update it.
Yeah, let's fix
Need a
it.
revision.
AOC,
We
new
need
deal.
a new Bible too.
New deal.
Yeah. Green New Deal.
Oh, that's
We
what
need
it's called?
we need
Oh.
updated cows. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a scary, scary thing. The response scares me too. That and people's response to socialism. Whole other story. Last question. With the bump stock ban and all those things, in light of those things, what's Trump's report card in your opinion on the Second Amendment?
On the Second Amendment,
or at least the right.
So as far as it has to be an A, largely because of what he's been able to do with respect to the Supreme Court and the appointments he's made. Because, but for that, we would be in a very, very bad state.
Yeah,
and I mean very bad. And so, I right now, notwithstanding the bump stock thing, which I did not agree with, I'd have to give him an A. He'd have an A+, but for the bump stock thing.
Yep, I agree. I definitely don't agree with the bump stock thing. I don't have bump stocks. I don't use bump stocks. Never have.
I have a friend that had 72,000 of them. He shredded them.
Yeah, our friends at RW Arms, they were the #1 patent holder. They were the only patent holder for bump stocks.
72,000 bump stocks shredded.
Yeah.
And I promise you, bump stocks never made anyone a better shooter.
Not when you, I mean, you can use a rubber band or a belt loop and do the whole thing. I can't shoot anything with a bump stock. I can't hit nothing with a bump stock. I can shoot in the sky.
Yeah, I mean,
it goes where it's gonna go.
You know, I can get into the I've had conversations in private. I hesitate to have it in public just because it can get very morbid very fast.
Yeah.
About the utility of the shooter in Vegas using the bump stock versus if he hadn't, and his effectiveness. Yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
But
was Vegas one guy?
Oh man, you know, I'm not really much of a conspiracy theorist, and I don't know why I'm not. However, I do look at reality for what it is and say, huh. So I guess that's if I go, huh, that's how you know I'm entering the mode of conspiracy theory, so to speak.
That was a hard one for me.
Yeah, because conspiracy theory doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true, right? You know, we've kind of like given the title of conspiracy theory to be just crazy, like, okay, well, conspiracy theory, and it's kind of throwaway. But there are a lot of things that don't add up. And then I find it odd how everything just kind of went quiet.
I was going to say, have we seen a full report on what happened?
Yeah,
their theory, or
there'd be some guns melting down.
The most
one person. The most
lethal, and that's another thing I will get into this aspect of it. I talk to people all the time when it comes to mass shootings. When people talk about the lethality of an AR-15. Yes, I want an AR-15 because it does a better job at defending me than a handgun does. However, the lethality of the AR-15 is exceedingly exaggerated from the standpoint of the reason why there's such a high body count in a lot of these shootings where there's an AR-15 is not because of the AR-15, but the circumstance in which the shooting took place. If you perch somebody up on a building the way he was, and you're literally just shooting into a barrel of fish, right, you're going to have a high body count. But yet the second highest death toll we've had in this country with respect to at least school shootings, from a school shooting standpoint, the highest death we had was Virginia Tech. And he used handguns.
Yeah.
All handguns. And it wasn't the handguns. It was the fact that he was able to chain the doors, seclude everybody in the room, and just pretty much
execution style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and people don't like
the
that count.
223 and the 556 ideally are not they're not created to be a lethal round as they are. But you're right; it's the perspective and the situation that they find themselves in.
Yeah. And but I also think as gun people, we might want to err on the side of not trying to minimize the lethality of the AR-15 as well, because
that's true.
And this is the lawyer in me coming out, because then it goes then why do you need them?
Yeah.
Why even bother having them? Right.
Yeah.
And then we can make.
Ugh, I'm just kidding.
Past life.
Yeah, I know.
Because he's black. You can't have a black lawyer. What the Natalie? I am disappointed in you.
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
Here I am hiding in my chair, just hanging out, just over here, just apologizing for party. I don't even apologize anymore.
Natalie.
I said lawyer.
Yeah, that's what you said was lawyer. I don't know how it got you black.
No, you said it with questions.
Stop projecting.
Colion Noir is an attorney.
Lawyer?
He's an attorney.
He just doesn't like lawyers.
The man is an attorney.
People
I
don't like.
always need a good lawyer.
Yeah, but nobody ever likes them.
I do when I need them.
I do.
All right, this is me finishing out the podcast as demure and obscure as I can be. Where can people find you? You're all over the place.
Man, I am a social media whore. I'm all over the place. I am on Instagram at Colion Noir. I am on Twitter at Mr. Colion Noir. I am on Facebook at Colion Noir. I have a website called Mr. Man, I'm a narcissist. Jesus.
I know. All of mine are Watch Chad. That ought to tell you something.
Well,
it ain't even my name.
You're borderline personality disorder, clinical narcissist.
I think you should have a fragrance. It's like Colion Noir.
You know, somebody beat me to it.
Ooh, that's a good idea. It
Well,
should
no,
smell like gun oil.
Actually, y'all, the Colion. Yeah.
Yeah, Colion
Now,
Noir.
is it?
It should smell like a mixture of homelessness and gun oil.
Wait, is that because I'm black?
It's a black bottle.
Well, no, I think
Yeah.
right now
Just
as it
a
stands,
big black bottle.
big.
Oh! Hey, Silent Herbert. Still silent. He's still silent.
I think is it weird that I have probably 3 or 4 bottles of cologne that literally have the name Noir in them?
Yeah.
I think it's on a subconscious level.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I had
That
a name
sounds
like that, I got to get one of those hats, too. I keep saying I got to get a...
I get squared away.
I gotta get a hat.
I get everybody squared away.
My man.
Oh, everybody. Did you hear that? Mark that.
I like that.
Oh,
Squared away.
Steve,
That
trust me,
means
when
he's
it comes to
hooking
free
us up.
shit,
like
Steve's a socialist.
I love it.
I promise you that. I promise you that. Man, it's been a pleasure. You're
I'm
always
blessed.
welcome here.
Yes, sir.
I love you. We've been trying to get you on the Humor Me show as well, and we'll go to the range or something, shoot some stuff, blow some stuff. Tell you what we'll do. We'll go down to the Kyle range. We'll shoot Lapua 338s at a mile, 500 to a mile.
I'm up for that.
Yeah, we'll go down there and shoot some tannerite and stuff. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thanks for
your
having
voice. Praying for you.
It's been fun.
Always
Thanks, man.
supporting
I need
you.
it.
Follow me back on Twitter, damn it.
Wait, I don't follow you on Twitter.
No, that's just crazy. But that's okay. It's okay. I'm a white dude in a cowboy hat. I'm a
I got
crazy
it
white,
right now.
heterosexual, Christian, cisgender male that identifies as he and they. So don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. It's Watch Chad, by the way. Listen, for Puppet Master Mark and Bougie Sean sitting over here, and of course over in the Peanut Gallery, Party Foul Steve,
say
always with the effervescent foot in the mouth disease, and the ever lovely.
I will say this though. You have a check mark. I don't. So
Yeah, see, that's messed up. It's because you're black, and it's because you like guns. That's messed up. Man.
I thought you do the spray tan.
Only in the middle.
Oh,
I only spray tan in the middle.
So that's your workaround.
So
That's how you got your.
See,
Okay.
I don't think that we even talked about that on the show. See, what we're referencing is first of all, my wife has a huge crush on Noir, and she loves him, and we would talk about everything that's black is bigger
Oh, my God.
and better, and so I bought spray tan and just sprayed myself all down. It just diminished. It didn't do a damn thing. It just
That's how it works.
it just got real freaky, like a black toadstool
Oh,
trying to
shit.
survive in high weeds, like a black button in a fur coat, man. But anyway, I want to encourage everybody, follow my buddy Colion Noir, and be educated. Be educated, be smart. And I tell you, this is the guy who can help you get there. I promise you. The debate is out there. The debate is worth having, and the debate can be won. So I encourage you to educate yourself. Follow him on everything he does and check it out. Go to NRATV. You get all of him. So for Blaze TV, thank you for watching. I encourage you to go where podcasts are offered. You can get them everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Android, Google. Oh, my gosh, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all the places. But go to blazetv.com/Chad and use promo code Chad. just buy the whole annual subscription. You get Humor Me, and you get the full episodes of that, which is fun, and you get fun guests like our buddy Maj Toure that I just mentioned a little while ago. You know, our video talking about guns in inner cities just hit 1 million on social media, so it's a good, intriguing conversation.
It's a good conversation.
Yeah, it's a good stuff, man. It's
good
real
show.
talk.
It's a good show.
Real
People
talk.
Sign up.
And we're consistently in the top 100 of podcasts all across the world, and we want to be it just tells us people are listening. So go where they are offered, subscribe, get your notifications. You can also watch us on YouTube. I love y'all. God bless. From Studio 22, we'll see you next time. Bye.